gonna do one. This is me saying something.
Breakfast. It's not for dinner.
Come on, that was a good.
That was a good one.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today we've got somebody who started his business in another country and then came to the United States. We can't wait to hear his story. Hey, I'm Karen. I'm a former CPA, entrepreneur, business consultant with big ideas, and I'm the mom.
I'm Katie. I'm a payroll specialist, business owner, and detail-oriented person that makes things happen. And I'm the daughter. Welcome to Cheers to Business.
John Serda, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
I know. So you have Serda Coffee, Serda Brewing, and all kinds of different hats. What's going on with you?
A lot of craziness in my head. But the beer helps. It keeps the voices quiet.
Tell us about your hats.
Well, they're annoying and
That has got to be the most honest answer we've ever had on this show.
It's true.
but I don't know what else I would be doing. So it's either coffee or drug trafficking. That's
You did start in Costa Rica.
I did, and it could have gone both ways, and it almost did once. So,
What were you doing in Costa Rica?
well, I went to South Alabama, and I got a degree in finance.
Me too.
Did you?
I did, yeah.
All right.
It was the easiest thing, so I just rolled with it.
And you're probably disappointed with your education, like I am, because I didn't learn shit at South. But the year I graduated, the Mitchells put in another $12 million, and they made the business center super, super nice. Because I graduated in '99.
Okay.
While I was in college, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and then I decided, well, I'm going to do international business. I want to travel. So when you do but I didn't take any college language, and if you, so I want to get a master's in international business, and in order to do that, you had to have 2 years of college language, which I didn't have. So I decided, well, if I study abroad, I would satisfy that 2 years. If I studied abroad for 2 semesters, I could satisfy that requirement. So I looked online, and I found a program in Costa Rica. I was like, well, hell yeah, who doesn't want to go to Costa Rica and study Spanish, So I moved down to Costa Rica to study Spanish.
How old were you?
I was, I was 99. I'm 45 now, so I'm bad at math. That's one of my... What is that? You don't either. Good.
I'm really good at math, but give me a calculator.
Give me a calculator? Right.
I don't know.
How old was I? I was before 30. So, yeah, I moved down there and moved in a little town called Punta Arenas, which was a little town. We called it Put It in Her But Ernest Hemingway would love that. It's just a little peninsula that goes out in the Gulf of Nicoya. And at one time, it was a really bustling city where all the ships would come in because it was the biggest port in Costa Rica. But then they moved the port south to Miramar, and that town went. And so
There's a lot of there.
Yeah, but it was a lot of drugs, a lot of prostitution, and a lot of students, which was really weird.
That is a great combo to have.
Wonderful combo.
For a time bomb.
Well, if you're bored and you're American and people think you have a lot of money, it's fun. For whatever reason, there were 3 universities there and a world-famous biology lab that was there. And they studied all sorts of fish and all the marine life in Costa Rica. So it was a really, really well-known biology lab there. And our classes were in that biology lab, which was really weird to go in and see all the aquariums and everything. And then you go into this classroom. And our teacher, his name was Arturo, and great guy, really learned that, being in that class, we were studying Spanish till 12, and then you got out at 12, and then what did you do the rest of the day, So we would sit on the beach and drink beer, and that was great for about 2 weeks. And then my ambition started kicking in. It's like, you got to do something with your life. This is boring. So I lived with a family, and they had a son about my age. His name was Edwin, and he was a very entrepreneurial kind of guy. And so we wanted to do something. We wanted to start a business in Costa Rica. And this is '99, so it was before, cell phones and all the high-speed internet and everything. This was AOL was, it's its heyday.
I wish I could make the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we decided that we would open up an internet cafe. And this is one of the advantages.
Pre-internet.
Pre-internet, yes. Yeah. This is when, the computers, remember desktops? So we had desktops.
I'm so old, I remember DOS.
I did too. I do. This is one good thing about Costa Rica is in maybe 2 weeks, we were up and running in a business. We didn't pull one permit. We didn't ask permission from anybody. We rented a house right on the beach, 2-story house, got computers from San Jose, put everything in there, opened up a small little kitchen where we served empanadas and coffee. And we were in business. And this was one of the things that Punta Arenas was doing. They were starting to get all the cruise ships because that port was the closest port to all the tourist attractions in Costa Rica. So it was fast for the cruise ships to come in, take the tourists to, Vulcan, Arenal, or wherever they wanted to go. So they had a big cruise ship business as well. So you had all these American and Canadian students, and then all these cruise ships coming in. So it was a good time for internet at that time. So we had 10 computers, and people would come in to our internet cafe, and they would use the computers, and they would drink our coffee. And they loved the coffee, which was weird because it was terrible coffee. It was Folgers coffee, basically. But it was not. It was called Café La Moderna, and it was the coffee of Costa Rica. But it was fresh. It was grown and roasted, so it was a very fresh, bad coffee. And I talked to my partner Edwin. I was like, Edwin, people really love this coffee. What if we got really good coffee? And he's like, well, that's a good idea. And, Costa Rica's kind of like Alabama. Everybody's related. He's like, I got a cousin that owns a finca farm in Costa Rica.
What's a finca farm?
Finca is Spanish for farm.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Oh, not a finca farm.
Yeah, it's like they grow fincas or something.
So he got in touch with him. And we started, he grew what's called Terrazoo coffee, which is the coffee that Costa Rica is really famous for, the high quality, high altitude grown coffee. So we started selling that, and then people really, really enjoyed that coffee. And when people got back to the United States from their cruise or Canada, they would call us or even email us, hey, is there any way I can get some more of that coffee? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I built a website, and I started shipping coffee from Costa Rica to the United States.
Now, you're not growing it. You're just buying it?
I'm just buying it, yeah.
Are you bagging it?
I'm bagging it, and
Okay.
Sticking labels.
everything, yeah. Boxing it, but I'm not roasting it. The guy that we got our coffee from, he was roasting it for us. And we got really, really lucky because the guy we bought our coffee from is a big farmer. He doesn't deal with, chicken shit business like us. We were buying 100 pounds. He's selling container loads,
Gotcha.
But he was a relative of Edwin, so he was like, yeah, I'll help you out. So, and it was neat because I got to tour his farm, and I got to see how coffee's processed and grown, and it's really fantastic to see how the love and the passion that goes into it. So that's when I developed my passion for coffee because I was like, wow, I've never had good coffee. I had, my
Fresh, bad coffee.
yeah, well, my grandmother was Cajun, so they like that crappy coffee from Community is what they like to
I
drink.
like crappy coffee.
So that was the coffee that I was used to drinking. So drinking that coffee it really changed my outlook on coffee and how coffee can be such a really good high-end product, if you get good coffee. So our sales continued to increase, and we would sell 5 pounds. We would put it in bags, and then we would go to, I would take it to the post office because they don't have FedEx or UPS. They only have the post office. So I'd be, carrying a dolly with all these big boxes of coffee. And I didn't mind going to the post office because it was the only air-conditioned building in Costa Rica. So, and then I'd buy, you get these big, beautiful stamps, and you put it on the side of the box, and you ship it off. So when the customer got it, it had all these big, beautiful Costa Rican stamps, and the coffee was all beat up, and it had airmail over it. So it was really, authentic.
Yeah.
It was an experience.
It was an experience, and they're like, look at my bag of Costa Rican coffee. It came from Costa Rica, so it was something to brag about, for people to do. Plus the coffee was very, very good. So I did that, and it just kept continuing and continuing.
Tell the name of your business.
Then we called it the Quetzal Coffee Company.
Now, I stalked you, and is it true that name is the name of the bird in your logo?
That's correct. Wow, you did your research.
That's all I know.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got on you. So that was the bird. I'm not wearing that shirt.
I was like, where's the bird?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have a picture of it anywhere. But it's a beautiful bird. And that's a story because I was walking through the Monteverde rainforest. And if you ever see a Quetzal.
Who does that? I want to do that.
It's beautiful. You
No
need
big
to go.
deal.
Oh, man.
It's a mountain.
Do you need a consultant and we need to have a meeting in Costa Rica?
We go on buying trips every once in a while, so you can come with us.
Just call me. Call me. I'm your new friend.
Yeah, we need help carrying the coffee down from the mountain. Can you do that?
Do I get a donkey?
You do get a donkey.
Okay,
They love donkeys.
I'll lead the donkey.
Yeah.
It's like kind of, I don't play golf, but I drive the golf cart. Okay.
Anyways, where were we? Costa Rica?
Were we? I don't know. So yeah, that's when. That's how. Yeah, you were asking me the name of the coffee company. It was the Quetzal. That's right. So I was in the Monteverde rainforest, and if you see a Quetzal, it's got a small body, but it's got a 5-foot long tail. So it looks like it looks like a pterodactyl kind of. I mean, it's a very strange looking bird, but it's beautiful. And I asked our guide that was with us, I was like, what the hell was that? And he's like, oh, that's the Quetzal. And then he went in to tell me a story that the Quetzal, the ancient Mayans thought that the Quetzal was a very important bird because it represented wealth and freedom to them. Wealth because the tail of the Quetzal was a very valuable item to barter with, and freedom because the Quetzal cannot live in captivity. And I was like, well, that's a cool story. So
That is a cool
kind
story.
of like the American dream, wealth and
I want
freedom.
a cool
Yeah,
story.
I know it.
So I called it the Quetzal
You do
Coffee
payrolls.
Company.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you do social media with that? That's kind of hard.
It's rough.
Yeah. Oh, employment taxes. Let's make this fun. Just put a dog in it. People love dogs.
That's a good idea.
So that's how the Quetzal, that's how it came about. But when I got back to the United States, nobody in Alabama could pronounce Quetzal. So I changed it. And then I tried the trademark it, and there was already a Quetzal coffee in San Francisco.
Really?
Yeah.
What are the odds of that?
Pretty good, evidently, because there was one. So I changed it to my last name. I was like, well, my last name's kind of unusual, so I'll just call it Serda Coffee Company. And I kept the bird as the logo, and that's how that came about. So, yeah, I decided after 2 years of living in Costa Rica, I was supposed to stay 2 semesters. I stayed 2 years and absolutely loved it, but I had student loans, I had credit card debt. Like I was saying, I was teetering between going legitimate or illegitimate business. I was like, I'll probably need to leave. And then I left the country. And then I was actually an illegal alien, which I didn't realize, because when I left,
You have the coolest story.
when I was leaving Costa Rica, the customs was looking at my passport, and he was doing I could tell he was doing the math in his head, and he looked at me and says, you've been here 2 years. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, do you want to deport me now? I'm leaving. He's like, well, and then he wrote on my passport, no more entry. So I couldn't go back to Costa Rica. Well, I mean, all you got to do is get a new passport.
Okay.
So I got a new
All
passport.
right. Well,
so I can go
crisis
back.
averted.
I was,
Yeah.
wondering
I was
how are you
worried
gonna-
for you.
I was worried too.
I
'cause
was
it
worried
like-
about me. How are you going to take me with you on your next trip?
Yeah. So.
So how's this? Do you speak Spanish after being there for 2 years?
I did. I did speak Spanish for
Okay.
a little bit, but after 10 years, well, how long has it been since 99? That's 18 years ago?
I love how you think like 10 years ago, 99.
I
and
know.
it's
My
like,
mind, I don't have any concept of time. 99 was 18 years ago.
I think
longer than
business
that.
will do that to you.
I know. It just, every day seems like the same day. It's just repeating itself. Like, what's that movie, Groundhog Day?
With occasional different fires.
Right, exactly. That's all it is.
What's it going to be today?
Right?
Let's play a game.
Isn't it fun? That's what I'm saying. Annoying.
So
I'll go with it.
you had the coffee was working, you're doing it, and then you throw beer into it.
Yeah, well, when I was in high school, I brewed beer because you
You
couldn't
like
get it.
beer.
Well, I like getting drunk. I didn't like beer when I was in high school. I just like getting drunk. But I didn't have an ID. So, what do? Well, you can buy all the ingredients.
Much safer and brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and then I didn't want to steal my parents' alcohol because they drank, crappy Andre champagne and stuff. But I didn't want people to think I was gay. So I decided, well,
He'll do bad coffee, but not bad alcohol. There's a line, Karen.
I love his priorities.
so I learned real fast that you could get all the ingredients to buy beer, and you can make your own beer. And then we're, what is that place now? It's the Shrimp Basket, Taco Mama, in that area. There used to be a homebrew place there called Spotswood's Homebrew.
Really?
He was an old man on Spotswood Photography. I don't remember if you know any of the
I
Spotswoods.
don't.
Well, he had a homebrew store there too. And so I used to go in there after school and buy all my ingredients and talk to him. And he was kind of my mentor about how to brew beer. So I started brewing beer. And when you start like cooking and stuff, you at first it's a hassle, but then you start getting into it and you're like, oh, wow, that came out great. And then you learn more and more. Well, the beer that I made started coming out really, really good. So I decided, so I grew a passion for beer. And And that's where my love of beer started coming from. Because then once you start making good beer and then you go back to Miller Lite, you're like, oh, I can't do this, So
Have you ever made a really good beer but then couldn't remember what you did or put into it? Or,
all the
I don't
time.
know the process.
Yeah.
He made it when he was drunk.
Yeah. And then sometimes you make a mistake and you're like, oh, that's going to turn out like crap. And then it doesn't. And you're like, well, how did I duplicate that mistake?
Yeah.
So it does. But when you get into commercial brewing, you have brewer logs so that you write down every
captain's
single
log.
thing.
All right, if it's barista,
Barista. That's
coffee.
That's coffee.
So what's a beer person called?
Lush. So
We need to go drinking.
a brewmaster is somebody that makes beer, or head brewer.
Okay.
Depends on.
Okay.
Technically, a brewmaster has to have a master's degree in brewing science. So,
Interesting.
Wow, who knew?
Yeah,
I'm going back to school.
All right, so you brought beer today.
I did. Yeah, this is the Pilsner that we make.
Pilsner.
Yeah.
So is Pilsner, I don't know anything about beer.
Hook, line, and lager.
Lager. Yeah, a little leading because all Pilsners are lagers, but not all lagers are Pilsners.
I feel like I'm back in, what is that, philosophy or?
Hey, Google, what's Pilsner?
Lagers is a style of beer. 90% of mass beer on the mass market beer is a lager.
Okay.
Miller Lite and Budweiser, those are all lagers. They're very easy to drink. They're very light beers. They're crisp. The whole thing about lagers, though, they take a little bit more time to make because you got a lager means, store under refrigeration. So, and they use a different yeast strain. So it does take a little bit longer. They're not forgiving for mistakes in the beer. You can really, really taste the mistakes in a lager, whereas an IPA or something, it's kind of like art. You can cover it up a little bit and, say, that's just part of the hops, or something like that. Lagers, you really can't cover up any mistakes. So it takes a little more skill and a little more technical skill to make a good lager.
Okay, what does IPA mean?
Nothing. It used to mean Indian. What? It used to mean Indian Pale Ale, but now it just means IPA because we've taken it. The story of IPA is that hops were found to be a natural preservative for beer. So when the beer used to come from Europe to the United States, they would preserve it with hops. They would put hops in it. And from India, so that's how India Pale Ale, that's where that came from because that beer would have hops in it and it was used to preserve the beer.
So it's a natural preservative.
Yeah, hops. And so now that doesn't happen anymore. We have airplanes.
So it's hopless.
It is. No, it's plenty of hops, but now it really doesn't mean anything because it's just a style of beer and we just kind of take it and we just keep using the name IPA now. But it doesn't really mean India Pale Ale anymore because it doesn't come from India. And it's not always a pale ale. It can be a hazy or a double IPA or something like that. So it's just IPA kind of is a style of beer that has a lot of hops in it. And it doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be bitter because hazies now are not bitter beers. We're taking the hops. The oils in the hops is what bitters the beer. And when you make the beer, you boil the hops and those oils come out and that gives it that bitter taste that you'll taste. But with hazy IPAs, you're not really boiling the hops anymore. You're adding the hops at the very end of it. So then you're just getting all the flavor from the hops and none of the bittering agents from it. So you get really, really fruity IPAs, but they're loaded with hops. You just have to add a lot more to it because you're not boiling it. You're adding it in the end of the fermentation process.
How many beers do you guys make?
On tap now we have about 20 beers.
Wow.
What did your mom think you were going to be when you grew up?
I have no idea. That's a very good question. I'm glad she's just happy that I have a job and that I'm not living at home.
Back in the States.
I know, but I don't know what they thought I was going to be. Growing up, she was at first okay with me brewing beer. And then, I've kind of got a devious nature. I saw that I can make money brewing beer in the garage because I could sell it, which is highly illegal.
I call that entrepreneur spirit now.
I did too, but the police called it breaking the law. And I was like, you guys are assholes. So,
just trying to make a buck so I can buy more beer.
I got textbooks to pay for. Anyway, so I think when my parents started realizing I was making beer to sell and no longer drink, they were like, you can't do this anymore.
What did you think I was going to be? What is that look? Did you see that look of horror? That was pure fear.
What? Now I'm interested. What do you think she was going to be?
I thought she was going to be an actress.
Oh.
I really do.
I can be a wee bit.
So you're pretty dramatic, yeah?
A wee bit,
A wee?
just a wee.
A big wee. A great big wee.
I have my moments.
I really did thought you were going to be an actress.
But it's interesting now though, like being a small business owner and dealing with different clients in different industries. You do have to kind of
Act.
yeah.
you got to play the game whether you like it or not
You
sometimes.
do, yes.
You talk to them in your head. The
Right.
hiccup.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah, I hadn't seen you out. How's
I know,
business?
right?
Yeah.
I really like talking to you.
So now everybody we meet after this going to go, does she really mean it?
No, I read this thing and it was like because the standard questions, they just get exhausting, when you first meet somebody at a networking thing or whatever, and it's just the same questions. So it was like all these really deep questions to start asking people, like, for example, like, do you believe in mermaids? Or like, if you had to, basically all those would you rather things.
Do you have your appendix?
Like, just really off the wall questions.
And if not, do you miss it? Do you think it's a valuable organ or not?
Yeah. If you had the choice to remove it tomorrow, would
Right.
you?
Your beer's really good. Just getting hot in here. So tell everybody where you are, where you're located.
We're on 600 Government Street, right behind Winsel's Restaurant.
Do you ship beer? Like if someone wanted to buy something
Say that,
wasn't
say that 5 times fast.
ship beer. Ship beer. Ship beer. It's not beer. It's delicious
Ship
beer.
No, unfortunately, because of law, we're not allowed to sell beer to consumers, direct to consumers.
Because we're in Alabama.
Because we're in Alabama.
Lovely.
Yeah, we're the 3-tier system.
Roll Tide.
Do you still ship coffee?
I'd ship coffee, yes. I still have some of the same customers from Costa Rica, which
That's
is kind
cool.
of, I know, that still will order from me.
You're the beer mentor. This
Spotswood, Mr. Spotswood.
Is he still?
Well, he was 90 when I met him, so I'm sure he's dead.
Gosh.
Yeah, he was a very
Okay.
old man.
Well,
so.
Cheers to Mr.
Yeah,
Spotwood.
Mr. Spotswood.
Yeah.
Be a mentor.
Yes, definitely.
They'll
helps.
talk about you after you're dead.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned?
You have to have discipline. It's everybody thinks that getting into their own business, I'll get to work when I want to and I will work for myself. No. Yeah, and you got to be careful because sometimes the business will own you,
Yes.
So you really got to have discipline. You got to know that, all right, I've got to get this done in order to, and I see entrepreneurs do this all the time. They do not have the discipline. And I can, usually 9 out of 10 times when somebody says they want to start a business, I can tell whether or not they're going to do it and if they're going to succeed. Because they just don't have the discipline. And it takes a lot of discipline to be able to wake up in the morning and sit down and go to work when you don't have somebody telling you, you got to do this. Or if you don't have a real strict deadline, like writing a business plan. Well, if you don't have a deadline, how long is it going to take you to write a business plan?
You'll never get finished.
You never will, So, and it's hard to write a business plan, especially if you've never written one.
I have a course for that.
Do you?
I liked what you said earlier about, you were kind of there. Do I make this legitimate or, illegitimate? And it was people starting or talking about how they want to start their own business.
Yeah.
I think realizing, hey, I need to do this thing right and legitimate.
Well, and it's hard for people to admit what they don't know.
Yeah.
Or they don't know what they don't know.
Well, that's the big thing is they
Get
don't know what they
over
don't
that.
know.
Yeah. That's true. You can't, if you don't know.
That's one of my biggest advice is that would you just be quiet. Stop telling other people how to be in business and listen to people who have failed and come back and succeeded.
And then a lot of people also have analysis paralysis. Well, they overanalyze and they overanalyze.
Yes,
And then they keep
everything.
telling themselves an excuse, well, if I get this, then I'll be able to do this. And if I get this, then I'll be able to do this. I'm like, no, you're not going to know everything.
I'll just sip my beer.
So,
Miss Spreadsheet.
I'm
Do you analysis paralysis?
Yeah, I'm an overthinker. And
I'll look at it and I'll say go left.
yeah. So I'm the exact opposite you are. I'm just like, all right, we got kind of a plan. Let's do it.
Yeah, you jump.
And then, unfortunately, it bites me in the ass all the time because, we've made a lot of mistakes starting this brewery, 2 years into it. And this is like, and we're about to relaunch. We're about to do a complete new brand and everything.
That is exciting.
Yeah. just
Because you have to be a Roomba, don't you? That little thing, when you hit the wall, turn around and go a little bit different way to see if you can get through.
Yeah. I mean, you really got to learn from your mistakes.
Yes.
And we've made a ton of them. And so hopefully I'm learning from my mistakes and our relaunch and our rebrand and everything will be a success because, I like to make beers that I like. Well, that's the number one thing that you screw up on. It doesn't matter what you like. It's what your customer likes.
We recently did another podcast with somebody who makes
Tony Salsa.
Yeah, he was on here, and his mama told him, don't make just spicy salsa. He said, but I like it. He said, but what about the people who don't?
Right. Mm-hmm. You got to understand your customer.
That's so wise. And I can't wait to see the rebranding. I love rebranding. I've done it before, and it was successful.
Is it just the brewing or the coffee as well?
Just the brewing,
Okay.
yeah. The coffee, we're getting new bags. It's kind of exciting because bags
Is
are
it
cheap.
for the ice, for your iced coffee? Is it frozen?
Well, we use the coffee cubes that are in it. We do take coffee and we freeze coffee to make the ice cubes.
I
in
didn't
it.
Yes,
know
so it doesn't get
that.
watered down. I think that's the coolest thing ever.
That is brilliant.
I didn't know if it was real or not, so thank
It
you
is
for
real.
confirming.
Because I
Yeah.
won't drink the bottom half of coffee because it's so watered down.
We'll get our iced coffee. Yeah.
We'll go after this.
Somebody actually said, you need to patent this. And I'm like, what? Freezing water?
Freezing coffee.
Right. But actually, there is a trick. You can't freeze any coffee. Because if you do, like Kenyan's coffees or African coffees, they're very acidic. And when you hear the word acidic, it doesn't mean the acid that's in your stomach. And acidity is the brightness of a coffee. When you taste coffee and you taste all the flavor at first and it hits you right off the bat, bam, wow, that's really, we call bright, acidic. Those kind of coffees, when you freeze, it is that brightness, that acidity of that coffee will actually come outside the coffee cubes. So when you take that and you put it in your mouth, it's extremely bitter. So you have to freeze medium roast coffee.
Interesting. John, before we go, I saw something on your phone earlier. I wasn't snooping. It was just lit up next to me. But will you, I think it's really great. Will you read what your wallpaper says?
It says, am I being productive or just busy? A lot of people have to-do lists, and I just wanted to knock things off my to-do list. Well, is that to-do list moving you forward, or is it just keeping you busy and keeping you in a monotonous rut every single day? So I try to do the things on my list that actually are going to move me forward and not keep me busy.
Great advice. All right. So anybody that's listening nationally, where do they go online to get your coffee?
Serdas.com, SERDAS.com.
And if they're local and they want to come get your beer?
They come to the brewery. They can buy it out of the brewery in the tap room. We just can't ship it. But we can't sell kegs. We can only sell retail, bottles and cans and crowlers and growlers.
And come to your social events because you guys do a lot of things there.
We do. We do yoga Tuesday. It's
Really?
free yoga.
I
And
saw
you
it
can
on
drink.
Instagram.
When? Tuesdays.
Tuesday
What
nights at
time?
6.
Tuesday nights at 6.
Yeah.
Join me for yoga.
And Bridget's our instructor, and she's awesome.
Awesome. I can't wait.
They do all kinds of things. I follow them on Instagram.
We also do belly dancing. If you're having
Oh my gosh.
sushi
Okay.
classes.
All right, let's go. I'm ready. Let's go. Well, we always end the show with a cheers. We cheers to everyone cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to beer.
Cheers to good beer.
Cheers
And
to
good
coffee.
coffee.
You know what else? I tell you what, I have been totally amazed by your intelligence of knowing what you're selling and knowing your product and knowing. I'm just impressed. It's so nice to meet you, and thank you so much for coming
Thanks for
on the
having
show.
me on the show. I appreciate it.
What's your cheers?
Here's to staying positive and testing negative.
Please be sure to subscribe to Cheers to Business podcast on iTunes or anywhere else that you get your podcast. Visit our Facebook and be sure to give us a like. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, shoot us an email from the website cheerstobusiness.com.